right. Good morning and welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. I'm Rob Vining. I am the lead faculty for the Telehealth Division for ICE and teacher at the Telehealth Building Your Digital Practice. We're just about to kick off our second cohort. So happy Monday. And if you can read in the title, what I'm going to be talking about this morning is telehealth and DPT student clinical education. And we're going to kind of use this as a thought experiment, but at the same time, I think it's more realistic and probably a lot closer than people think. I think that just DPT educational institutions just have to have some sort of easy framework to dip DPT students into that will allow them the opportunity to actually use and utilize telehealth to further broaden their clinical education. So I remember when I was going to school, like this is one of those grandpa in a rocking chair moments, right? Back in 2003, 2004, and we had, I believe, 4 or 5 clinical sites that it was a roll of the dice. We really didn't have too much of a choice. At the same time, we did get to suggest if we wanted maybe, an outpatient, inpatient, home health setting. We got to ask for that, but that didn't necessarily mean that that's what we got. So I was depending on almost the luck of the draw and the roll of the dice to get a great clinical experience. And of course, that was something that I had to take on myself as well. As soon as I got in those clinicals, my whole job was to figure out, okay, what is this person's strengths? What can I learn from this person, regardless of who it was? And what can I pull out of this? But I knew and remember specifically that there are a lot of my fellow students and fellow PT students in PT school that just felt like they were getting really shafted with the clinical education that they got. So it kind of comes full circle. And now here we are, 15 years later in 2020. What I think that can solve this problem is probably something that's going to utilize technology and potentially give students a wider variety of clinical experiences. So if you think about it this way, the thing that helps us the most and the whole reason that we go on clinicals in the first place is to gain that experience and that knowledge that we don't have. So in order to do that, we have to be sent out into the world kind of under the wing of somebody that has some experience to put us in situations that we've never been in before with a little bit of guidance. Now, like I said, in my case, 4 or 5 of them, that's all I had. And luckily I was, under the wing of somebody a couple of times that really knew what they were doing, was a great educator, and definitely did not phone it in every day that I showed up. And I'm always thankful for that. But what I think we can do with telehealth education and the DPT student clinical experience is we should think about the most efficient way to do this for students that are going to need clinical education over a variety of different settings, and then also a variety of clinical instructors. So let's just use the last 10 minutes here kind of as a thought experiment, right? And extrapolate and lay out what this might look like and kind of start a discussion on how we can craft and use technology to create the best DPT student clinical experience possible to produce better and better students coming out of school. Everybody's already awesome coming out of school. I just think that, hey, if we have the chance to raise that bar even higher and make every single student that's coming out of PT school even better, let's do it. So one thing that I think that can really change the game is having a variety of clinical instructors. And what that would look like, just to kind of lay it out of a thought experiment, is you have clinicians on this side that serve as CIs and you have students on this side, right? And you have some centralized platform that basically would plug in clinical instructors, and they could throw in maybe 3 or 4 visits that they know they're going to perform, maybe evaluations. They could specify a little bit of a patient background. But in generic terms, let's say that Bill Smith hops in and types in that he's going to see a low back pain patient who's 48 and female, and it started after gardening, right? Just that much information. Enters that and puts it into a calendar, and then enters 3 more patients that are available. Now, this on the student side, the student potentially is kind of given this outline and some numbers to meet by the DPT school that basically says, okay, you need to see, let's just throw some arbitrary numbers out there. You need to see 30 visits of low back pain patients. You need to see, 30 cervical, 30 shoulder, 30 knee, what have you. Go down the list, right? So the student gets a little bit of freedom to almost group their day on what they want to see. And then they get to go into this calendar and basically pick and choose who they would like to see treat what, right? And this could be actually scalable to where the clinical instructors potentially have room for, let's say, 4 or 5 students to watch them for each visit that they've plugged into this calendar. So imagine that I'm the student. I'm sitting at my computer. I start my morning and I go down the list. I have my checklist of, okay, I need, 13 more low back pain patients to be seen, 10 more shoulders and 2 more cervical. So let's say I want to kind of knock out the cervical box. I just go into that calendar. I look through. I find specific clinical instructors using telehealth that are plugged into this system that are going to see cervical patients. And I pick 10 o'clock and I pick an 11 o'clock. So while I'm on this, just like right now, I'm using Zoom to kind of live stream in for the PT on Ice Daily Show here. They would be able to connect through live video and pretty much just sit in on this treatment that's happening. And then let's say with about 10 minutes left, it's common practice. With 10 minutes remaining, that clinical instructor finishes up with a patient, sends the patient to the front to schedule, just like normal brick and mortar clinic. And the clinical instructor then takes questions from the students. So it's really similar to how I remember my clinical education in the outpatient setting, where whenever I first started, I knew nothing. So I definitely wanted to absorb that treatment, that evaluation that I was watching. And then I wanted to just ask a couple of brief questions to kind of clarify a few things that I wasn't clear on while that evaluation or that treatment was going on. Once I had that clarification, okay, now I have a better idea of that framework that this clinical instructor was using, why they did X, Y, or Z, why they chose that certain treatment method. Then I went on, right? And I really believe that this would allow more variety in seeing different treatment styles so that you're not just dependent specifically on the luck of the draw or the roll of the dice to really get a good clinical setting when you're a DPT student. And I think and I feel that telehealth is definitely going to be the way that we can allow these DPT students and anybody that's going through, PTA, any sort of medical training. I'm just kind of applying this to the DPT student scenario right now, because I truly believe that this could be a benefit in a major way, and kind of start to make any sort of DPT curriculum almost evolve around what's going to happen in the future versus what's happening now. And as more and more DPT students are questioning or wondering if they want to go into PT school, this should just absolutely be something that almost puts a pin in that question, because they know that these programs are becoming more and more forward-facing, more and more forward-thinking, and it will really give them the best possible experience to come out of school immediately and be able to have such a Rolodex of different treatments that they've seen with different treatment styles from different clinical instructors. And as we all know, experience is the best teacher. But I believe a caveat of that and a little twist on it is you've got to have some variety in that experience in order to really truly see what's the right way to do things, what's not so good, what different analogies that you can pick up, because that was one of my favorite parts in my DPT clinicals, was actually picking up some of those analogies to make the patients have that light bulb moment where they would go, oh, okay, now I understand what you're saying. And being able to do that across the spectrum of many different clinical instructors, I'm talking potentially, 50, 100 plus clinical instructors that you've watched evaluate or treat as a DPT student, you're going to sponge up a ton of different communication strategies to relay information to patients in a way that they understand and they know what's going on. They're on board with it. So I truly think that this is one way that telehealth could be of benefit for DPT student education, specifically in clinicals. I think it just kind of takes a little bit of imagination and exploring that outside of the box thinking about exactly what can happen using tech, and then how it would be efficiently used in a manner that really builds DPT students' Rolodexes. So when they come out of school, they have a great grasp and a great concept of, whatever setting they're going into. They now are more well-versed because they have that variety of experiences. So I think this is something that'll probably become a more discussed topic in the future. I just wanted to bring it up. I think it's a great thought experiment. I think it's something that we should start injecting into the conversation as telehealth becomes more and more popular across the board. You've got the younger generation just coming out of school that thinks, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. I've also seen more and more commonly now the older generation that are at the back half of their career saying, I would love to do this. And so the difference between those two groups is experience. And when you have the capability of the older, more seasoned veterans to actually show the younger generation exactly what they did and their communication style and their analogies and the way that they related to patients, and then their thought process going on from having a patient that, the student might have seen one clinician treat the exact same diagnosis and treat them the exact same every single time. Well, that will just burn into that clinician's brain when they come out of school. Okay, this is just the way you treat low back pain. But having that variety really makes you question if this is the best way or this is the best way and why. And then does it just depend on, the type of patient that you're seeing? It gives you a chance to actually analyze and figure out what is the best strategy to communicate and to treat the patient in front of me, instead of just getting almost like a cookbook recipe. This is back pain. This is what you do. This is the only way you do it. You need a variety in those recipes that you're using to get patients better. And I think it's something that we can look forward to in the future. All right, PT on Ice Daily Show. Thank you very much. And I will probably see you next month. Take care.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.